We know how important out-of-pocket health costs are to household budgets. That's why we're strengthening Medicare, and that's why we can't afford to see these really important services cut. Now, in the last day or so, we've had the release of the national accounts, and that was a report card on the economy. And in a difficult set of national accounts, we also know that our efforts to get wages moving again, to get inflation down, to roll out the tax cuts and to invest in local services like this one is making a meaningful impact. We don't pretend that people aren't doing it tough. Of course people are doing it tough and the economy is soft in aggregate. But our efforts to boost wages and get inflation down and invest in Medicare and housing and in other ways, we are starting to see some welcome and encouraging progress, and that's really important. Our political opponents would rather Australia be in recession. They want that for political reasons, and if Peter Dutton was in charge, we would be in recession right now. We know that because he didn't support the cost of living help. He wants to take out $315 billion out of the economy at the worst possible time, and that gives you a bit of a sense of the risk that he poses.
Treasurer Jim Chalmers has decisively dismissed any speculation that he could step into the role of Prime Minister if Labor retains power in the next federal election. This response comes after a provocative opinion piece by Nikki Sava in the Sydney Morning Herald and The Age, suggesting that current Prime Minister Anthony Albanese should retire to allow Labor to regenerate. Speaking on ABC Radio National, Chalmers reinforced his confidence in Albanese's leadership and dismissed the idea of taking over. He expressed his hope and expectation that Albanese would serve a full term if Labor wins the election. The best version of that for me is to continue being the nation's treasurer, Chalmers emphasized. He further underlined the government's commitment to economic stability, addressing cost of living challenges, and implementing tax reforms. At a press conference, Chalmers acknowledged Australia's economic challenges, admitting that the economy remains weak and households are under pressure. However, he pointed to positive progress in inflation control, wage growth, and investments in Medicare and housing. We don't pretend people aren't doing it tough, but we are starting to see some welcome and encouraging progress, he stated. Veteran political commentator Nikki Sava has made a blunt prediction about Anthony Albanese's political future, urging the Prime Minister to retire gracefully, even if Labor wins the next election. In her column, Sava suggested that Albanese should step aside after a decent interval to allow fresh leadership, potentially under Treasurer Jim Chalmers. She painted a dire picture for Albanese if Labor loses next year, warning of a bloodbath that could tarnish his legacy. Even if victorious, she argued that Albanese's perceived loss of mojo and judgment might prompt internal calls for a leadership change to counter the growing threat of opposition leader Peter Dutton. Adding fuel to leadership tensions, Albanese's relationship with Tanya Plibersek has come under scrutiny. Stripped of the prominent education portfolio after the last election, Plibersek is now set to release a biography of former Labor PM James Scullin, who also served a single term amid economic turmoil. The timing of this release has drawn comparisons to Albanese's leadership challenges. In response, Treasurer Chalmers reiterated his loyalty to Albanese, dismissing any notion of replacing him. One of the things we'll take to the Australian people is a sense of stability and economic progress, and that's a tribute to Anthony's leadership, he said. Opposition leader Peter Dutton has launched a scathing attack on Labor's decision to shift Australia's stance in a recent UN vote advocating for the peaceful resolution of the Palestine-Israel conflict. Previously abstaining, Australia joined 157 nations in supporting the motion, which 8 countries, including Israel and the United States, opposed. Dutton argued that this decision undermines Western values and is a threat to civilization itself. He accused Labor of abandoning Israel, the Middle East's sole democracy, and aligning Australia against its traditional allies. It's not just about Israel or the Jewish community, it's about the values we hold as Westerners, Dutton said. Shadow Home Affairs Minister James Paterson echoed these sentiments, criticizing the government for distancing itself from allies like the US. He warned that this could send a dangerous signal amid global instability. Foreign Affairs Minister Penny Wong defended the government's position, emphasizing Australia's commitment to a two-state solution as the path to lasting peace in the region. On balance, we believe this resolution contributes to peace and a two-state solution, she stated. Wong underscored Australia's role as a constructive middle power, working with the international community to address the ongoing cycle of violence. Dutton's remarks follow a controversial decision by Immigration Minister Tony Burke to deny a visa to former Israeli Justice Minister Ayelet Sheikht. Citing her past inflammatory comments about Gaza, Burke argued that allowing her to enter and speak in Australia could harm social cohesion. This decision has sparked diplomatic tensions, with Israel summoning Australia's ambassador for a reprimand. At Aussie Pulse, we are committed to bringing you in-depth and balanced coverage of the stories that matter most. Stay tuned for more updates and analysis on the issues shaping our future. If you enjoyed this breakdown, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to keep your finger on the pulse of Australian news. Until next time, this is Aussie Pulse, signing off.